Hello, welcome. Welcome to Your Best Kept Secret to Success. I'm Prema. I'm so thrilled that you're here. Welcome back. And those of you coming in new, welcome to my new listeners. So, I have a question for you. Have you ever had that nagging sensation that you're meant for something more? And beneath, the daily grind, the things you're doing routine, work, home, family, all the things, just wondering, like, is there a deeper calling that you're supposed to be answering? Today, we're diving deep into discovering your soul's true purpose and how that holds the key to unlocking not just your success, it's this profound fulfillment in your life, in your business, your work in the world. And I want to share with you just this timeless framework that I've helped countless entrepreneurs, leaders, just soul driven people in to really align their purpose with their mission in the world. And just another thing about this that's so important is that you might have felt like you were really on purpose, but have found that after a while, it's like, well, is this really it? I'm going to address all of that in this episode. And in fact, that was me for a while, and I'll dive deep into that. So today we're discovering your purpose, the ultimate secret to success. I want to remind you that we are a call-in show when we are live, and you can call in. The number is probably on your screen if you're watching on the live video version on one of the platforms. And the number is 1-866-451-1451. And you'll always find that with any show that you're watching. You'll find that in the show notes. And if you're listening to this afterwards, or you would prefer to ask me a question and send it in to me, then it's askprema@solutionary.com, SOULUTIONARY. And that is my website as well. And you'll find that link with the show. Love to have your questions. And in fact, we do have a question that came in today. So, I always want to share with you also what's going on with the energy, because that is super important. Although this is not a full astrology update, you can find that on my YouTube channel. But this is really important for us to stay attuned to, like, the bigger energies that are happening currently. So I have something very spectacular I want to share. It's a very special day as far as the cosmic weather goes. And at the end of the show, or I should say before the end of the show, I will be doing an oracle card reading for you out of the Sacred Wealth Code Oracle card deck. It's a collective reading. There's different ways that you get to get some of your own questions answered in that reading, whether you're listening to this live or you're listening to it later. The reading is absolutely timeless as well. So first, I'm going to dive into this energy that I'm talking about, that it's a very magical day. It's a spectacular day. And in fact, when this is being recorded, February of 2025, and February 4th, that is, that the month of February is a pretty spectacular month. January, what was January as far as the beginning of the year? I don't know. It didn't feel like the beginning of the year for a lot of us. And for some people, it was, just kind of like I heard someone say it felt like a spiritual smackdown. So, wherever you are with how you're feeling, February is bright and shiny for us, okay? February is a time to get going. It is a time where we have a lot of energy supporting us and some big shifts happening. We're coming out of some deep retrograde energy. A retrograde is when the planets appear to be moving backwards. They're not really. They're at the extent of their orbit before they're going to shift back towards the sun, and they slow down. And life slows down related to whatever that planet happens to represent. Today, Jupiter, our great sage, our great teacher, and our great visionary in the Sacred Wealth Code archetype system. And if you're watching me, I'm holding these up. If you're not, you're just getting to hear about them. The sage is this deep spiritual sort of wisdom type of a teacher. And the teacher archetype, of course, is driven by knowledge. To know is to grow. And that visionary holds that great vision for us. And Jupiter is this amazing planet that really, it's like what it wants for itself, it wants for everyone. And I'm speaking in a metaphor here, but it's that, like, when you have something going on for you that's just so wonderful and you want everyone to have it or to know about it. That's the energy of Jupiter. And it has been retrograding in Taurus in Vedic astrology. And this is a place of where you've been reevaluating values and wealth and security. We all have on a collective level, even though it means something specific to you based on your chart. Like for me, it's my ninth house of divine purpose, but it still rules these things I'm talking about. So we are going to start to see with this shift that the things that we've been reevaluating again around our wealth, around security, our purpose, even. How do we want to make some different choices about that and move out in the world with that in a new and different way, in a way that's driven by knowledge? Now, that doesn't mean we take action. We do take action, but it's bringing that higher knowledge, like what you have learned. And in truth, wisdom is knowledge experienced. That's where we're looking over our shoulder going, okay, I went through that challenge or I went through that scenario, and knowing what I know now, in the future, I'm going to do it differently. It's where we get to apply that. So it's just going to get some things moving in these areas. And yeah, we all want things to move as far as our values, our wealth. And this is where we get to make some new choices on aligning our values so that we are creating the kind of security, creating the kind of wealth. And this even comes down to like family and happiness that our heart truly desires. So I invite you to, just contemplate that a little bit. How do you want to do it differently now that you're going to have some gas in your tank to start and some wind at your back? I was a sailor for many years. Wind at your back to move you forward. In fact, I lived on a sailboat when I had both of my kids, and spent a couple years down in the Sea Cortez, sailing down the Pacific coast down into Mexico. You'll always hear me use sailing analogies because I learned a lot during that time. Sailing is a lot of work, cruising is a lot of work, and there's amazing, spectacular moments that go along with it. It was one of those experiences where when I was doing it, crazy things would happen. I mean, we lose our dinghy at sea, winds, blowing a gale, reefing down the mainsail, strapped in, hanging on the front of the boat. And when I was out there, I was fine. But if I would think about it later on from land, I'm like, what were you thinking about? What were you doing? And you had kids during that time? Yeah, I did. Anyway, so this energy of Jupiter is going to start to light you up. So I want to invite you just to even start to think about, tune into, like, what is one of your values that has shifted recently? And how can you implement that so that it's for your higher good? And if it is for your higher good, it's going to be for the higher good of everyone. So what I mean by that is, if it's really good for you, like in full integrity, like right for you and good for you, it will be good for everyone else. It's aligned, even if they don't know it, even if it, sometimes it's hard to maybe do something differently because somebody else is really used to you being the way you were. And this keeps us from changing. That's a challenge I think we all run into quite often. And so sometimes we don't make those changes for ourselves. And that even may be a point of view. But it is time to become more aligned, in more integrity with yourself and your values, and be able to create more wealth because of that, make a bigger difference because of that. And so between now and the end of May, May 15th, I believe, this is going to be a very, very powerful and important transit that's going to influence us all in a very positive way if we choose to use it that way. So that's the energy that I wanted to bring you. We've got some other great stuff going on with Venus. I'm going to get into that next week. Of course, this is Valentine's month, and I'll be doing an episode on opening our hearts and really connecting in with just the amazing power of our heart center and what that can do for us and how that affects who we are and our success as well. I want to take a moment before we dive into purpose to answer a question that came in. Last episode, so that would have been the second episode, I was really digging into the Sacred Wealth Code archetypes, what they are, how they came to be, how they can serve you, which is an ongoing conversation for us. But one of the questions that came in from Lisa is, how and why does the shadow side of the archetype express? And is there a positive intention to the shadow side of the archetypes? And my answer is this the so here's the thing. Yes, there is a shadow side to all of the archetypes. And since we were just talking about Jupiter, let's bring that in. So the teacher is very much the archetype, the energy of where Jupiter is currently. So I'm holding up the teacher card. The mantra is to know is to grow. Now, the shadow side of the teacher is arrogance, craving too much recognition, overconfident, sometimes even manipulative, but it's really this energy of a know-it-all. So that energy, that shadow side, so say it's the know-it-all, how does that shadow side get in your way? And what is sort of the gift in the shadow? We'll do a whole episode on this actually, because your greatest challenges are one of your greatest gateways to creating wealth and success for yourself. With the shadow, think of it this way. It's like you have a gift or some of your gifts locked up in your shadow. And when we release the shadow, when we release that, you can think of it a limiting belief, a past, hurt or trauma that you've had. When you release that, then you break through that, you're going to release the gift. So the gifts, like just some of the high value gifts of the teacher, are knowledgeable, connective, a really good communicator, very inspiring in general, wise, supportive, strong mentor. It's a teacher, sharing knowledge, very trustable, and has a strong presence. The sole desire of the teacher is to illuminate and artfully communicate knowledge which uplifts whatever you're here to uplift. So we're going to generally say humanity, but whatever you're a teacher of. So this is, to uplift people in some way. And the purpose is to be a conduit for learning, growth, and change in the world. Because if we are learning, if we are growing, and we're helping others to do that, we're creating, a positive change. So in order to break through our shadow, we've got to find out what are the beliefs that are driving the part of us that is, we're calling the so-called shadow. So you could think of a shadow as like a block, a challenge, a way that you feel like you are stuck in some way. Those are some of the ways that the shadow actually presents. And one of the problems with the know-it-all is, if we know it all, we don't have any doors open to learn something new. And to be an amazing teacher, you need to also be an amazing student. You have to continue to learn. If we know it all, we are not open to new information. If we're not open to new information, we are stuck and staying the same and eventually living in the past quite quickly. And that can absolutely hold us back. So in order to, like, for instance, to be knowledgeable, like a teacher is knowledgeable, but if you're already a know-it-all, I'll just use a classic example. Say you're a history teacher and you are, and a know-it-all, so that you are really just giving the same information over and over again and not keeping up with the times, maybe not listening to the deeper questions that are coming in from your students. But let's remember, a teacher shows up in lots of different ways. You're a mom, you're a teacher. You're a dad, you're a teacher. You are in whatever job that you are in, you likely are transferring knowledge and information to other people. Of course, if you're a CEO, if you're a coach, if you're a mentor of some sort, you're teaching in another way. So it is incredibly important to notice where your blocks are. And in fact, this is one of the big pieces of work, and if you are feeling challenged, like, hey, I do have a block, I don't know if it's a shadow, not a shadow, what archetype, whatever, but you do feel blocked in some way, or you feel stuck in some way, likely you are facing your shadow on some level. And if you are facing your shadow, then it is super useful to be able to break through that and get to the gift. And this releases a whole lot of energetic currency. So this is something that I work with my clients all the time on, whether I'm working with my private clients, whether I'm doing a healing session, whether I'm working even in my membership or my mastermind. We are always looking at what are the blocks, and I've got a lot of processes, techniques that in my collective groups that I share with you, so you can work on these things consistently. But with my readings with my clients, I get right in with you, and we really just laser right in on what is the challenge, and we really dissolve those beliefs that are driving it so that you can realign to some beliefs that are aligned with your gifts or whatever, the level of freedom you're ready for. So thank you so much, Lisa, for bringing in that question. And the positive side, remember, of the shadow is there's some part of me, there's some gold in me that is locked up right now or is turned in the wrong direction or weighing me down. And when I can get to it, when I can understand what it is, why it's there, make some space, safe space, shift those beliefs around, heal that part, then there's this amazing energetic currency. There's these gifts that I have that I haven't been willing to or able to use. And when you do that, that's going to liberate you in your success, in your wealth, in many different ways. So thanks again for bringing in that question. And again, if you have a question, do not hesitate to email me, ask Prema at Solutionary, or to call us in on the show. Always love chatting with you. It's one of the beautiful things about this show is that we do questions. This is a live experience. All right, let's get into the purpose, your purpose. I like to call this harnessing your soul's big why. I have a whole chapter on this in my Sacred Wealth Code book because this is the first of the 4 pillars of the Sacred Wealth Code, or really the 4 pillars of wealth, I like to call it, because purpose gives our life meaning. It gives meaning, a deeper meaning to anything that you are doing or being. And when you're feeling flat, when you're feeling uninspired, typically you're disconnected from your purpose in some way. We do not have just one purpose. I believe that we have a core soul purpose, and then that is expressed in different ways. So I'm going to help you today to touch on what that might be for you. We'll do a little process around that. And the difference between your soul aligned purpose and an ego driven purpose or even ego driven goals is that the ego driven goals or purpose are coming from the outside in. So that's the example of maybe you have a position in your company and you're, someone higher up from you is telling you, hey, you should go for this other position because it's going to give you this recognition. It's going to give you this more, amount of money or whatever that might be. But you don't really want the position. You don't want to express yourself in that way. You'd like more money and sure recognition, but you go for it anyway, even though it's not really aligned because of what it's going to give you in the outer world. You can only go so far with that. That's moving from the outside in. Just like motivation is moving from the outside in. Motivation is when we're taking something outside of ourselves to get us to move, get us to do, get us to be. Where inspiration, that comes from the inside out. Inspire from, it's in spirit. That bubbles up within you. That comes from your soul. That doesn't come from outside of you, and that cannot be denied. Well, soul purpose is the same way. Soul purpose is how you're wired up on a soul level. It's like, if I look at your soul blueprint, if I look at your chart, your Vedic astrology chart, which I call your soul blueprint, you have 3 houses of purpose. And your first house, your 5th house, your 9th house. Don't worry, I'm not going to geek out too much on the astrology, but this is super useful because that purpose plays out in three different ways. It sort of evolves, where the first house is more like who you are and personality and such. And then we move into our fifth house, which has a lot more to do with our gifts, other things as well, but it is a purpose house. And then we move to the ninth house, the third house of purpose, where it's divine purpose, it's soul purpose. And each of our purpose houses are followed by a wealth house. Now, I talked earlier in our conversations about my definition for wealth is everything you need to fulfill your purpose. You could also translate that to success if you want to use the word success. Success is everything you need uh, to fulfill your purpose, meaning what it is that, and that's also because the wealth houses follow the purpose houses. They're really a place of acquisition. We do have to acquire things, and acquiring knowledge and money just represents so many things now in our culture. But it's not just that; it's resources at any level that help us to actually do what we came here to do. But more so, let me back up: be who we've come here to be, because at some level, I believe that the core of our purpose is to be authentically we are, fully expressed in our gifts, fully expressed in who we are, our true authenticity, which is really a beautiful thing, because if we are on the path to that, we are always going to be discovering more of who we are. And it's one of the reasons, part of my purpose is helping you to understand, how you're wired up, what your gifts are, so that you can be this full expression, because that lights me up. And that's the way my soul blueprint is wired up. I'm really wired around, when I say wired, I mean like coded. This is in my soul blueprint, and it's, of course, my interpretation of it. But really, it's about understanding that it's an inside job. It's energy first. And just like we have to be first before we do, energy first, like, aligning from the inside out, living from the inside out, living from those inner impulses, from our intuition, from our soul purpose, from our gifts, which are all, on the inside. It's energy, and then bringing that out into the world. So the underlying essence of purpose, just to like distill it down, is really your big why. It's your big why. It's why you want what you want. It's why you do what you do. It's the big why. So if we just use the prompt of success or wealth, you can use either one. So just for a moment, just play along with me here, okay? So you maybe, it being the beginning of the year, you looked back and you gathered up and decided and discerned, okay, that was last year, but 2025, when we're recording this episode, here's what I want to create. So you have some kind of intention, some kind of vision for yourself. And if not, then it's a good time to do that. And you might want to take my Divinely Aligned class. It's available on my website, where I do a whole visioning process along with helping you understand the energy of the year. And in this process here, is it a level of success, a level of wealth, what it is that you really want, or you can pick one of those things. So I want to invite you, and we're going to tune in with our hearts for a moment. You can just take a couple of deep breaths through your heart. If you're driving, keep your eyes open. If you're not, if you want to close them, that's great. But we want to just take a moment to connect with our hearts. So just take a couple of deep breaths and just focus on your heart, because your heart knows the way. Your heart is the gateway to your soul. This is where your deeper wisdom is, and your heart knows the way. So we'll just ask a nice deep question and just ask it right into the heart. And whatever it is that you're wanting to create this year, whatever level of success, whatever wealth that it is that you want, why is that important to you? Like, what is the why behind that? Why is it important to you? So just take a moment with that. Why is that important to you? And then I'm going to have you ask yourself again, why is it really important? What's it going to do for you? What's it going to make possible for you? Why is it important? You're going to come down to some level of quality of freedom or joy or more security. Like, for instance, my vision for the year has several different components, whether I'm talking about my relationships or what I'm talking about. But as far as my work in the world goes, this year it really came in to be more visible, and this podcast is part of that. Even though I have other platforms that I'm on, is YouTube, and I've had a business for a long time, and I'm active on social media, and I'm sometimes on interviews or giving talks places. But it was more visibility, and the why in that is really that I actually make a bigger difference. I reach more people. I touch more people with my work if I have more visibility. And what does that do for me? It brings back such a level of fulfillment for me. Yes, there is a greater level of success and wealth that goes along with that, because I have programs, I have readings, I have different ways that people can come in and work with me. But it really came in as this deep level of fulfillment, just like a deep, deep level of fulfillment. I'm not at the beginning of my career, my kids are grown. I plan on doing this for a long time, but I'm just at that stage where fulfillment has a lot of value, just the way that it makes me feel. It lights me up for each and every day. So curious what your why is for whatever it is that you're wanting to create. Now, you could do this with anything, whether it's your work in the world, whether it's relationships, whether it is the money that you want to create. Okay. So let's take this a little bit deeper here. Oh, before we do, I'm going to just reflect back for a moment. I talked about in our first episode, and I talk about this in my book, when I let go of my yoga center. This is over 20 years ago when I let go of my yoga center, and it was yoga and beyond, the yoga of life, because I really believed that what we did there, the work that we did there, inside the studio, was just practice for being more aligned in our daily life. And I was teaching a lot of these principles then, but I was teaching them, under the principles of yoga, and then in my private practice with the astrology and this deeper intuitive work. But I really believed that I was on purpose, and I was. I was on purpose. I wasn't 100% on purpose, and I was doing some things, and I was stuck in my shadow that was keeping me from being able to pour enough energetic currency into my purpose. And I was also at the change of a particular cycle in Vedic astrology, a dasha cycle, that was calling me in a different direction to be more liberated, where I was in a Saturn cycle for a long time that was really holding a particular form. Just like, think about a yoga pose. Like, you're like, when you're like wishing the teacher would just say, okay, all right, let's go to the next pose, unless you're in a flow class or something. But if you're in an Iyengar class, you're going to be holding that pose for a while. Well, I was holding that yoga center for a while, and I was shifting into my Mercury cycle, the cycle of the communicator, which also ruled my business, by the way. I was really being called to be more flexible, to be more, to spin more than one plate. Mercury usually spins 3 plates. And in that, I thought I was on purpose, but I wasn't 100% on purpose. And as I shared in that particular episode, I was stuck in part of the shadow, speaking of shadow, and it was really in the shadow of my Saturn, my great organizer administrator in my chart, and I was carrying way too much responsibility, which didn't leave me enough energy to actually move fully forward with my purpose. So I went through my whole dissolution process around that. You can listen to that episode if you want to hear more about that. Sometimes we feel like we are on purpose, and then we don't feel like we are, and we're wondering what's going on, or we feel like we are and the money's not happening. Now, what's off? There's always something off, because we have to have a certain amount of energetic currency actually aligned so that we can move forward and magnetize to us, what it is that we're calling in. How does the purpose actually connect with your sacred wealth code? Well, your sacred wealth code is built off of a scientific principle in Vedic astrology called Dana Yogas, and your Dana planets, which are your wealth planets. Dana Yogas are where purpose and prosperity planets, where they come together, the wealth planets and the purpose planets. So it's just this beautiful intersection of purpose and prosperity. And that is where we find our highest value gifts. So if you can imagine, though, that purpose So your highest value gifts, say they really are, they live on the corners of an actual intersection, just to give you a metaphor here. And that intersection, how do we get to the intersection? Well, we've got to have we've got to have a vehicle to get there. And purpose is really the vehicle, because purpose is always going to pull you forward. Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning, whether it's now or was a time in the past, or would get you out of bed in the morning? I know you get out of bed, but you know what I mean. Like where you just can't wait to get up and get going. Purpose is, again, it's this vehicle. It not only will get us going, but it will pull us forward. It's like a force that commands our energy to meet with it and move with it. So think about purpose being the vehicle that gets you to your this intersection of purpose and prosperity. It's the vehicle that that gets you there. And it is encoded. Has to do with, I could look at your chart and I could help you get to purpose very, very quickly. But the thing is you're feeling this, you're sensing this, and you can get to it on your own as well. And we need to know the big why. Now, you may be saying to me, yeah, but I don't even know what I want to be doing. Okay, well, that's going to take some bigger work, more than we can do right here. Okay, but if you want to grab my book, Your Sacred Wealth Code, I take you through a whole practice in there. Or, of course, you can come in and get a reading with me, and I can get right to it with you. And we can also move you past what's keeping you from it, because a lot of times there's a part of you that very much knows, but there's also a part of you that is stuck, like we were talking about shadow before. So it's really important for us to understand what our energetic blueprint is. And you can feel that and you can sense that if you spend enough time being tuned in with yourself. And this is why meditation is a big part of my life. And I create a lot of meditations for my clients in all of my programs, so that you can stay tuned in. You can get used to listening and sensing and hearing or seeing, and depending on how you're wired up. I'll share a little story about one of my clients. My client Ruby discovered that the root of her, what she really wanted at the time, it was her wealth vision, was freedom, well-being for herself, and a deep sense of security. And having all of these things would really give her the confidence to take the next step in her business that she wanted to. So she's a teacher, and she teaches a particular kind of reading and writing for children. And she was really feeling the call that she needed to be spending her time teaching teachers, because she could make a much bigger difference in that way. And she had evolved in this work, and she had a lot to teach about in this. So she wanted to become, and really felt the call to become, the teacher's teacher. And she was very much wired up around this in her Sacred Wealth Code as well. And so she had to move past some blocks around this and some fear around security. And when she did, she really made the transition from the classroom, started her own business. And in that, she was, and she's still in this. And in fact, and she's evolved greatly, because not only has she been teaching teachers and bringing this work to other schools, and she does work with a particular school as well, but she has her own business. She's also, I think she's on her second book now on this particular philosophy that she has put out. And we just had a session on what she's up to next, to be able to bring this back to the next level of bringing this out in the world in an even bigger way. And so in order for her to make a big difference, she's got to touch more people, kind of like I was talking about. And that's where it evolves to when you're sticking with something, for instance, and it's continuing to, evolve. You're going to move sort of through the ranks with it. So she had to learn to trust, and she very much stepped in with it. And then the purpose has stayed the same to a certain degree, but it has shifted. So one thing that we really need to land here is that oftentimes we are thinking that our purpose has to be about something we are in service to and doing for others. Our purpose manifests an expression of that, absolutely. But the primary purpose is really our authentic expression, and I believe our authentic expression of our gifts, which brings us the freedom, it brings us the joy, it brings us the security, the peace, whatever it is for you personally, that why. And you need to get down to that. And I like to even call it your selfish why. That why, that the why isn't for the difference it'll make in the world. That's secondary. Primarily, the why is for what it does for you. Like I explained to you, like I have this much bigger purpose to really affect so many more people. Part of the ways that I do that is by working with other conscious leaders, to help them to get aligned, because I'm like, it's part of the power behind the wave that they are. And in turn, we both, moving our energies together, are able to make a bigger difference in touching more people. But it brings me a deep level of fulfillment. That's my selfish why. And freedom. And that is something that I have to stay very connected with. In fact, the more I'm connected with feeling free and feeling fulfilled, the more I'm able to fulfill my purpose. It goes hand in hand. So we do need to know what it is for ourselves personally that making this bigger difference is going to, what will it do for you? Yes, it'll do something for the world, but you have to know what it'll do for you first. So let's just recap here for a moment. And you know what? We could talk all day. We could do a whole week workshop on purpose. And let's see, I do some of those things in my program. So the Sacred Wealth Collective is my membership, and the link is with this recording or this, wherever you're watching this, the show page. This, or you can go to my website, solutionary.com. But I work with these principles in my membership. I work with it in my mastermind, and we go deep and we talk, we get personal about it. So remember, with discovering your purpose, uncovering your purpose, reconnecting with it, no matter where you are in the process, it is number one, you need to know, what is the big why for whatever the purpose is for. And if you want to take it to the level of success or for wealth, what is the big why? Why do you want that? What's it going to do for you? And that's you sitting with your heart. And if you can, closing your eyes, put your hand on your heart, taking some deep, full breaths, and really asking those intimate questions. Why is this important? What's it going to do for me? And continuing to ask until you get to that level of it where it's something like, like it is freedom, it is peace, or whatever it is at a very core level. It's something you're going to feel, okay? Feel and be. And then, what do you want it for? What is it going to make possible for you? So if you've got that level of peace and fulfillment, or if you're doing, like for me, helping other people actualize their gifts, what does that make possible for you? Well, it's going to make this peace, this freedom, and for me, fulfillment. But it also brings in, there's so much more that it does. It brings in all kinds of connections. It brings in, more opportunities to be able to give my purpose. It brings in more wealth. Absolutely. And then what's the purpose of that? Okay, well, then I can give, then I can continue to have the freedom that wealth gives me to be where I want to be, to give where I want to give, to have the kind of time delegated for the different things that I want to be able to have the team members on my team that I have, to be able to invest in my business, to invest in other things and other people. It continues to play out. So you can really have fun with this. What does it make possible for you? And then because it's made that possible for you, now what is the difference that you're making? What is it? If you're feeling fulfilled, if you're feeling free, you're just by you being you, you're more generous. You can give a lot more just in your presence, in your gifts. So when it comes to aligning your purpose with your business or your work in the world, this is where we want to use our purpose as our big why. Remember, your purpose equals your big why. We want to use that as this barometer to check things against. So we can ask a whole other series of questions. And this is where I usually get in my mastermind, the solutionary mastermind, or in my private clientele. And I do this in readings as well, but really digging into, this piece around how do we align our purpose once we know it with the work that we're doing currently. So say you're in a job. I want to hit this one first. Say you're in a position, a career, a job, and at one time it was great, or maybe it never was great, but you don't feel like it aligns with your purpose. It's not the real expression of your purpose. And for instance, I have a client who is an accountant, and he also is very much of a musical artist, and he makes his money through accounting. But his real passion and feels his real purpose is very much connected to the musical work that he does. So he's had to bridge this by also understanding that within the company that he works in, and he works in a video company, that he can express his purpose. He has a great administrator in his chart, which is ruled by Saturn, and he can really express his purpose. And he's also very much of a connector. And so aside from the actual accounting work, there's places and ways in the company that he is stepping in and taking leadership in different ways to express that purpose there. And yes, he's doing it in the musical work as well. So sometimes when it doesn't feel like, what I'm doing is my purpose, then you need to, how can you take your purpose and express it in what you are doing? And then as far as aligning your business or your work with your purpose, you need to weigh it against, okay, is my business in alignment with my purpose? Okay, yeah, it is here. No, it isn't there. Okay, then what is it I need to do, shift, or change in order to align it with my purpose? And I guarantee you there's a ways that you can do that. I guarantee you. And then for those of you who keep switching your business here, there, and everywhere, you probably haven't really aligned with your purpose. And once you do, things will synthesize if you really weigh the big questions and the way you're doing things in your business against it being in alignment, in 100% alignment with your purpose. So if you have questions, you want to have more of a conversation with me on this, call in or call in next time. And if you want to send me a question, ask Prema at solutionary.com. And I would love to further this with you. And again, this is sort of just opening this topic up because it'll be an ongoing theme for us. I want to do a oracle card reading with you today. And here's how we play with this energy. It's super fun. And by the way, if you're wondering what one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes is, you can take my free quiz. The link is with the show or on my website. And you can get one of your Sacred Wealth Code oracle, one of your Sacred Wealth Code archetypes. And you'll get a nice description. You'll know what the gifts, the shadows are, and a little bit of training on that. If you want to really dive deep into your wealth code, go to my website and get a Sacred Wealth Code reading. And there's two different levels. One where you just get your archetypes in a PDF and you can work with it on your own. And then there's where we have a session together and then I decode all of it for you and answer your questions. So that's how you can come into this work personally. Now, when we're working with the oracle cards here, I'm going to be picking 3 cards today. It'll be a collective reading. And with the collective reading, I'm just going to read the collective. Now, if you're listening to this afterwards, no worries. This is timeless. That's my intention here. It's for you, okay? And your interpretation will be perfect for you. If you have a question, you can hold that question in your mind and your heart, and you can let the collective reading give you the guidance on your question. You can also do it this other way, which is that I will be picking 3 cards and I'll let you know which one is 1, 2, and 3. And you can have your question and you can have in your mind, okay, I'm going for card number 2. That's going to be my card today. It'll answer your question or it'll just be your theme. So there's just some ways that you can play. If you have another way, you can play on your own. All right. So I am going to be picking 3 cards here from the Oracle deck. You can grab the Oracle deck on my website and also on Amazon, Your Sacred Wealth Code. They're absolutely beautiful. These are all hand-painted paintings. All right, so first card. Oh, interesting. Okay. Don't worry, I'm going to let you know on what all these are. Okay, this is a great spread, an interesting spread, interesting for the energy that we have currently too as well. Okay, so you set? The first card, and I'd be holding these up if you're watching this on one of the video platforms like YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If not, you can always check out the Oracle deck. But the first card is the Advocate, and it's someone putting their arm around somebody else. This is one of Saturn's archetypes. And it's the mantra is, I align with the greater good for all. And what's coming in around this, and interestingly enough, Saturn is at the tail end of Aquarius, where this archetype is very much in rulership. This is around social purpose that's coming in. And of course, what are we talking about today? We're talking about purpose, right? So with our social purpose, aligning with the greater good for all, when we are totally aligned with what's good for us personally, and it's really true, there is a place for this in this greater fabric of life that we're living. So this energy with the Advocate it's twofold that's coming in. One is some of you are needing to hear that you need to literally put that advocate arm around yourself. There's a part of you need to be the advocate for. And we're an advocate for someone when they need help, for whatever reason, because we are in a stronger position. They can't for themselves. Sometimes we're an advocate for children, people who are disadvantaged, whatever it might be. This is being an advocate for the part of yourself that might be feeling a little stuck, a little challenged right now, and knowing what you are gathering from our conversation today, there is a way that you can better advocate for yourself. The other piece that's coming in here is that there's an energy where maybe you have been advocating for somebody that how do I say this? That you're not in the full energy of being an advocate, meaning that you're doing things for people that you don't need to be doing for them. Instead, it's about empowering them in whatever way. And so take a step back from doing too much for someone. Maybe they needed it at a particular time, but now it's time for you to step aside and maybe just hold space for them and allow them to step into that space. So that's what's coming in around the Advocate. Curious what's coming up for you. Feel free to comment on any platform that you're watching this on or listening to this on. Card number 2. So if you picked card number 2, this is card number 2. And card number 2 is the Messenger. And the Messenger is one of Mercury's cards. And it's very much kind of where Mercury is going to be going next at the end of the month into Pisces. But this is, I bring the light of awareness. Now, this is where messages are coming in from beyond. And what I mean by that, this is this intuitive nature. This is where I'm being called to remind some of you that there's a deeper listening that you need to do to quiet down and get away from distractions, whether it's social media or listening to too many people's conversations or whatever it might be, being too engaged in the news. That's a big one I'm hearing. And that there's messages ready to drop, some insight that you've needed for yourself that's really just ready to drop in for you if you turn the static in your radio, in your channel down. And you do that by getting quiet. You do that by unplugging from some of the places where you're jamming your circuits from. So that's the first message I'm hearing with this. But then there's another piece of this for some of you. So take whatever is resonant for you. And the other piece is that you have been getting a clear message and you're not listening to it. You're maybe hearing it, but you're not listening to it at the level that you could be. And the message may be for you, or it might be for somebody close to you. And it's time to listen to that message and time to follow through on that message. So that's what's coming through there. And then the Collaborator. And the Collaborator is one of the Moon's cards. And, this is that I co-create to create. We don't do anything alone. We're always co-creating with the universe, but we absolutely co-create with others. And in this energy of co-creation that the collaborator brings, a bit of the shadow is coming up to be aware of, because the shadow is where we are maybe co-collaborating with a team, maybe this is at work in a project or whatever, but you don't feel like you're getting the recognition for it, or your voice is not being heard. That's what I'm hearing. Your voice is not being heard. And because of that, you're kind of pull back from the collaboration. So you want to find a way for your voice to be heard, absolutely, within the collaboration. Or have you outgrown the collaboration? That's the other piece. This might be a collaboration that it's time to let go of. And what I'm hearing loud and clear, because we are always co-collaborating with the universe and with others, that there may be a better fit for you in your collaboration, meaning another group to be in, others to collaborate with. So get into your intention for why you're even collaborating to begin with right now, and so that you can get more pure in your collaboration. So that's our card reading for today, and I'd love to hear what's coming up for you. So definitely leave me a comment somewhere. That would be great to hear from you on what landed for you today. I have loved being here with you. I always do. I will be back again next week at the same time live. We're always 1 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays, but you can catch me on any of your podcasting platforms. And I really appreciate you subscribing and leaving a review, or on Spotify, I think you rate it. And I really appreciate you doing that. It just helps get the word out, and we can, make a bigger difference here together. So send me your questions. I'm looking forward to being with you in the next episode, where we'll go into the second pillar of wealth, which has to do with our passion. And I have a very unique take on passion. We'll continue the conversation about gifts and purpose and all the things. I will be bringing you some guests soon as well to deepen these conversations. And if you haven't already checked out my website, I encourage you to do, and book a reading with me. Let's get into what purpose is for you. Let's break you through your challenges. Let's break you through what's holding you back, so that you can make a bigger difference and you can have that freedom, that fulfillment, that peace, whatever's at the core of your big why. What's your big why? That's what I want to hear. What's your big why? So much love to you. Look forward to being with you again next week, and appreciate your sharing and subscribing.